Jacob wandered through the bustling streets of Los Angeles, feeling profoundly lost. The city was alive with energy, people rushing past him with purpose, while he drifted aimlessly. The towering buildings mocked his insignificance, their glass facades reflecting a life he couldn't grasp. Each skyscraper seemed to whisper tales of success and dreams fulfilled, yet he felt like an outsider looking in. The hum of traffic a soundtrack to his inner turmoil. The constant noise was a reminder of the relentless pace of the city, a pace he struggled to keep up with. He yearned for something to anchor him, a sense of belonging in this vast urban jungle. The faces around him were a blur, each person absorbed in their own world. A purpose amidst the chaos, something to give his life meaning. He often found himself sitting in crowded places, hoping to catch a glimpse of inspiration in the faces of strangers. He'd moved to the city seeking opportunity, driven by dreams of making it big. The promise of a new beginning had lured him, but reality was far harsher. But the anonymity only intensified his isolation. In a city teeming with life, he felt more alone than ever, a solitary figure in a sea of faces. He worked a dead-end job, one that drained his spirit and left him feeling unfulfilled. Each day was a repeat of the last, a monotonous cycle he couldn't break free from. His days blurring into a monotonous cycle, the same commute, the same faces, the same routine. It was as if time stood still, trapping him in a loop of mediocrity. The bright lights of Hollywood held no allure for Jacob. He sought something deeper. Nights were the worst, the city's glittering facade a stark contrast to his inner darkness. The silence of his apartment amplifying his loneliness. The four walls seemed to close in on him, a constant reminder of his solitude. He knew he needed a guiding principle to navigate life, something to steer him through the storm. He turned to books and motivational quotes, searching for answers. But he didn't know where to begin. Each day was a struggle to find his footing, to carve out a path in a city that seemed indifferent to his existence. Despite his spiritual void, Jacob possessed a deep-seated sense of morality. His parents had taught him the importance of kindness, empathy, and honesty. These principles became his moral compass, guiding his actions. He remembered his mother's belief in the inherent goodness of people and his father's commitment to doing what was right. These early lessons shaped him, laying the foundation for a moral code that transcended religious belief. He often thought about the small acts of kindness he had witnessed growing up. Even amidst the harsh realities of city life, Jacob clung to these values. He believed that even small acts of kindness could make a difference. One evening, as Jacob walked home, the city was unusually quiet. The streetlights cast long shadows, and the only sound was the echo of his footsteps on the pavement. Suddenly, a cry pierced the night, shattering the silence. It was a sound that sent chills down his spine. It was a woman's voice, filled with fear and desperation. The kind of scream that spoke of immediate danger and helplessness. He hesitated, fear flickering in his heart, unsure of what to do. The city at night could be a dangerous place, and he was just one man. But the woman's cries grew more urgent, more desperate, pulling at his conscience. Jacob's empathy overruled his caution. He couldn't ignore someone in distress, not when he had the power to help. And so, he followed the sound, his heart pounding in his chest, each step taking him closer to the source of the cries. He saw a young woman being harassed by two men, their intentions clear and menacing. Her eyes were wide with terror, pleading silently for someone to save her. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, his voice strong and commanding, as he told them to leave her alone. The men turned, surprised by his intervention, their expressions a mix of anger and disbelief. They hadn't expected anyone to interfere, especially not someone like Jacob. But Jacob stood his ground, his resolve unwavering. He knew he was risking his safety, but he couldn't leave her to fend for herself. The thought of walking away was unbearable. He had to act, even if it meant putting himself in harm's way. The woman's safety was more important than his own. He couldn't stand idly by while another human being was threatened. His sense of justice and compassion drove him forward. In that moment, Jacob knew that he had made the right choice. He was ready to face whatever came next, for the sake of doing what was right. The two men, momentarily taken aback, sized Jacob up with a critical eye. One sneered, taking a step towards him, but Jacob held his ground firmly. "I said leave her alone," he repeated, his voice growing stronger. To his surprise, the men hesitated and then retreated into the shadows. The young woman, trembling but relieved, thanked Jacob profusely for his bravery. He brushed off her gratitude, saying it was simply the right thing to do. The act itself, the knowledge that he had helped someone, was reward enough for him. He felt a sense of deep satisfaction, confirming his moral compass was pointing in the right direction. As Jacob continued his journey, he encountered more moral dilemmas. The city presented him with constant choices, each testing his moral resolve. He learned that morality wasn't static, but a dynamic process. He witnessed acts of cruelty and indifference, moments that challenged his faith in humanity. He saw the homeless ignored by passers-by and the cutthroat competition of the corporate world. These experiences tested his convictions, forcing him to confront society's darkness. He realized that morality was a personal journey, a constant evolution of understanding. He learned to question his assumptions and approach each situation with a nuanced perspective. Despite his growing understanding, Jacob still experienced moments of doubt. These moments crept in like shadows, casting a pall over his thoughts and making him question everything he believed in. He questioned his motives, wondering if his actions were truly altruistic or if they were driven by a need for validation. The papers on his desk, filled with plans and ideas, seemed to mock him, each one a reminder of his uncertainty. He wrestled with existential questions, envying those who found solace in religion. The faith that others seemed to embrace so easily eluded him, leaving him feeling isolated and adrift. He wondered if his lack of faith was a handicap in his search for purpose. The religious symbols he passed by on his walks through the city seemed to taunt him, each one a reminder of what he felt he was missing. The city's temptations made it difficult to stay true to his values. The allure of material wealth and the promise of instant gratification were ever present, challenging his resolve at every turn. He felt the pull of power, wealth, and instant gratification. The luxurious cars and towering office buildings represented a life of ease and success, a life that seemed so much simpler than the one he was trying to lead. He struggled with life's inherent unfairness, questioning the value of his moral code. The protests and demonstrations he witnessed only heightened his sense of disillusionment, making him wonder if his efforts were in vain. He wondered if his efforts to be a good person even mattered in a world of injustice. The cityscape before him, with its mix of beauty and decay, seemed to reflect his inner turmoil. Yet, he continued to seek meaning and purpose in his actions. Despite the doubts and the temptations, he found solace in small acts of kindness, believing that even in a world of shadows, his light could make a difference. One rainy afternoon, Jacob stumbled into a small bookstore. He browsed the shelves, hoping to find something that resonated with his state of mind. Drawn to the philosophy section, he reached for a book on existentialism. His hand brushed against another book, sending it tumbling to the floor. He picked it up and saw the title, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Frankl's message of finding meaning in suffering resonated with him. Jacob purchased the book and devoured it, finding a new perspective. He realized that purpose was something to be created from one's own experiences and choices. Frankl's words had a profound impact on Jacob. He began to see his life as a tapestry woven with his own choices and actions. He started to appreciate the simple joys of life and found pleasure in his work. He sought meaningful connections, valuing genuine interactions. He realized that purpose was a journey to be embraced, not a destination. He understood that life was a process of becoming, a constant evolution of self-discovery. He saw his lack of religious belief as a freedom to create his own meaning. He had his own moral compass, his own internal guide. Jacob's newfound sense of purpose gave him strength. He no longer felt lost and adrift, finding his anchor within himself. He realized that morality was about living in accordance with his values. He continued to face challenges, but now had the tools to navigate them. He learned that life wasn't about avoiding suffering, but finding meaning in it. He became more resilient, embracing the imperfections of human existence. He found peace in the knowledge that he was responsible for his own life. He didn't need a higher power to validate his existence. He had found his own sense of worth. Jacob walked through the city streets, no longer feeling lost. He felt a sense of belonging, a connection to the world around him. He had found his purpose in his own inherent morality. He saw the city with new eyes, appreciating its diversity and energy. He recognized the challenges and injustices, but also the potential for good. He continued to live by his moral code, believing in the inherent goodness of humanity. He knew that his actions, however small, could make a difference. He had found his peace, his purpose, his moral compass within himself.